In just 2 events, the ASA Series has already seen it all. At round 1 in Lakeland, Florida, there were fires, crashes, emotions, as well as some exceptional racing. While the rookie class showcased their talents, wily veteran Butch Miller capped off a stellar late race charge, passing around the outside from third to first to take the win. But last week at round 2 in Houston, the rookies got a wake-up call as numerous crashes and poor decisions left them outside the top 5. While the Tyros were trying to figure out the track, the old school contingent used their experience, taking the slick track in stride on their way to the front. And best of them all was Kevin Sawinski, holding on for the win and his 2nd straight podium. But one of the toughest challenges awaits as the best short track drivers in the world tackle the fast and furious tri-oval in Concord, North Carolina, smack in the heart of NASCAR country.
Welcome to the 3rd round of the American Speed Association's National Championship, the BF Goodrich Tires 250 here at Concord Motorsports Park in Concord, North Carolina, right in the heart of stock car country, and for many, the promised land. We're very fortunate that this race is happening, however. As you take a look earlier today, we were deluged with rain, a number of weepers that ended up canceling qualifying, and we did get it dried off, so we're fortunate to be able to hear those words from Todd Steen.
Gentlemen, on behalf of BF Goodrich Tires, start your engines. Thank you. Very good.
Now, when you jump out to an early points lead, there's nothing you want to do more than get racing right away. For more on that, let's meet the first of our pit reporters, Ken Stout.
Kevin Sawinski got off to a great start with a very tough 2nd place finish at Lakeland as Butch Miller passed him with just 7 laps left in the race. Then we moved on to Houston Motor Speedway for our inaugural event in Texas, and it was Kevin Sawinski who managed to stay in front of the #1 qualifier, Robbie Pyle. That earned him his first win and his first splash of champagne for the year. As we take a look at the points, it's Robbie Pyle who's in 3rd place with a 2nd place finish and a 9th place finish, and he's trailing 2 ASA champions. Let's go to Rob Albright with a rookie chase.
Travis Kittleson is the rookie story of 03. Twice at Lakeland, he came from the back to the front to finish 4th. He backed it up with another top 10 at Houston. Travis made a cameo appearance here at Concord Motorsport Park in 01, leading 70 laps and more late before giving way to eventual race winner Johnny Sauter. Well, he may be a surprise to a lot of folks, but Travis knows that he belongs here. He leads the rookie points and is 4th overall in the championship standings, leading over Ryan Hemphill as well as the machine of Sorensen. And now back up to the booth, you guys.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and welcome everybody indeed. Hi, I'm Greg Kramer, joined as always by Jim Trado. And Jim, really, the story here, aside from the weather, is this track. It is blindingly quick.
This is the 3rd racetrack of the season, a 3rd different venue. They started out the season on a 3/4-mile racetrack, long straightaways. Here, the trick track follows up the bull ring of Houston a week ago. The trick will be getting from turn 1 to turn 3, flat on the gas, all the way down into that corner. Getting into turn number 3 is the critical point for these drivers to successfully make it around this tricky track.
And as the cars roll off, we're going to get you to the starting grid. Keep in mind, it has been decided by owners' points. That means Kevin Sawinski in the #1 is up front, joined by Butch Miller. 2nd row is Robbie Pyle and Travis Kittleson, who was fastest in practice, but Robbie Pyle sat on the pole here in 01.
Yeah, I kind of grew up running on odd tracks, and this is one of them. It's pretty demanding. It keeps you on your toes all the time, but we're looking for a good day here tonight, I think.
Moving to our next row, it's Mike Garvey, a great start to the season. And Rick Beebe, a great run in Houston. Row number 4, Ryan Hemphill and Mike Cope. Mike Cope is concerned about simply getting to the front as early as he possibly can.
Well, it's not real tough to get to the front, Rob, whenever you're starting there, but staying there is going to be another problem. We got a limited amount of laps and a limited amount of practice here today at Concord, so it's just going to be trying to stay there. But I think we got a good race car.
Moving on, we go to row 5. Glenn Allen Jr., the veteran, joined by the remarkable rookie Reed Sorensen. Row 6, Boris Yurkovic and Chad Wood, another great run at Houston. J.C. Beatty and Todd Cleaver round out row 7. In row 8, it's the veteran Brian Reffner and Ed Brown. Row 9 is Greg Stewart and Tracy Gordon. Greg Stewart, he's at home, and he's hoping that brings him some good mojo.
Yes, sir. My fans are my rabbit's feet. I got friends and family that drove up here to see me this weekend. Not far from home. Been in Georgia for a while, living down there, so I'm going to see home for a change. But I'm glad they're working hard on this track. It's going to be some fun racing tonight.
Moving right along, Chris Wimmer and Troy Rangren will fill out row number 10. Row 11 is Gary St. Amant and Peter Cozzolino. For Gary St. Amant, it's been a tough start to the season, and he's deep in the pack once again.
Definitely think that it's going to take luck to get it to the end of the 250 laps, but also there's going to be an awful lot of luck involved in missing that big wreck. And we do that, I think we're going to get the Janet King Chevrolet up front tonight and hopefully be there at the end.
Well, if anybody can get through the crowd, it's him. Let's take a look at the rest of the grid. Row 12, Shane Sagan, Donnie Reavers. Row 13, Chris Stump and Bill Clemens. Row 14, Casey Smith and Greg Williams. Tough race in Houston for him. Row 15, Davin Seitz and Jesse Klug, a couple of remarkable rookies. Row 16, Doug Stevens and Stephen Light. And row 17, John Silverthorne and Dwayne Bouguet. Now it's time for us to meet the fifth member of our broadcast team here today, a familiar face. Welcome to Bob Dillner.
It is awesome to be here tonight. We are in the center of the stock car racing universe. All aspiring young racers want to be here because they know 90% of the Winston Cup teams are just down the block. The spotlight is on these drivers tonight. All eyes are gleaming at ASA here in Concord because at the end of these 250 laps, another star may just be born.
Very much true, and it is, as we said, right in the heart of the stock car country. When we come back, we will bring you the start of the BF Goodrich Tires 250 under the lights here in Concord. Speed Channel's live coverage of the ASA Racing Series BF Goodrich Tires 250 is brought to you by BF Goodrich Tires, the official tire of the ASA. And by SK Hand Tools, the official hand tool of the ASA. Welcome back, everybody. The cars are well underway on their pace and parade laps. And there are a couple of spots remaining on the track, just a little bit of some weepage, but it looks to be drying very quickly. They're fairly confident that we're ready to go. Rob Albright, what do you have for last minute?
Brand new rule instituted for the race beginning here tonight at Concord. 2 pit stop driver. That I indicated that one of them would be for fuel, or would be that included also for Travis Kittleson, who was fastest in practice. Ken?
Some of the teams here feel like they can make it on this race with just a splash of fuel alone and without changing tires, which means they will have to come in and make a stop and go. We'll find out how strategy plays out. Guys?
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Obviously, we have possibly a little bit of some technical problems there for Rob. This weather is affecting a lot of stuff, and we have somebody, I think that's Jesse Klug, the young rookie, down in the pits, and a lot of smoke emanating from the right side. And that, of course, is where the exhaust is. He may have engine problems earlier.
And Jesse Klug, trying to make his first start of the season, was at the first 2 events, but was not quick enough to make the show. The I-94 Speedway and ASA track member track is where he crowned his championship last year. Now he makes the move to ASA full-time.
Let's take a look at our race analysis. You can see 250 laps, which is 125 miles, 34 starters. Pretty substantial purse, over $180,000 in the pit window. Is really pretty open. As they said, they can get a long ways on fuel, maybe just a splash, so they could possibly go all the way to 200 laps before having to fuel. And if they stop early, shortly after 50 to 75, they may be able to go all the way. Here is the developing story with Jesse Klug as they are looking under the back right side of that car with some earnestness at this stage. And to clarify what Rob was saying as it was breaking up with this new pit rule, if it's 250 or less laps, you got to make 2 stops. And because of the tire wear factors and because of the fuel factors, the drivers think that they can do it. 1 stop would be fuel, 1 would be tires, and away we go. Remember, you can't do both. Here you get some of the pit to driver communication. Pace car is in. We're about to get underway here at Concord Motorsports Park for the BF Goodrich Tires 250. Out of turn 3, we are racing! 34 cars hammered down into turn 1. And I think these opening laps, Jim, even though they did get some practice, might be fairly exploratory, just trying to sense where the grip is.
Well, the only other visit for this series in 2001 at Concord Motorsports Park had a horrific start, so we're already beyond what was a very trepidatious start because they didn't know if they could get through the first corner. They haven't gone too wide in their practice session.
And nobody raced real hard, and that gave Sawinski the lead, chased by Butch Miller. Robbie Pyle right there, Travis Kittleson Oh, but here's a move. Garvey down to the inside. Kittleson gets a little loose, and Garvey loosened him up beautifully and sneaks through, picks up the 4th spot. Miller starting to put some heat on Sawinski. Boy, Miller's car looks good as he comes out of the corners here, and we have a yellow. There it is.
That's 33. Greg Stewart spinning. Dwayne Begay also around in the 07 of Chris Stump, and Chris could not buy luck this season in the 07 car for Noah Yoder in the Ford camp.
Here's a good look at Stewart parked down there. The number 33 machine there is the 45 of Bugay, who looks like he may have got away with it. Let's see if we can spot what happened.
Going into the corner, we see a little bit of contact. Greg Stewart right here going around already. Contact from the black car behind him. We couldn't ID who that was, but that sent him spinning. I'm surprised more cars were not involved. Another look now. He gets spun right here by the 32 of Troy Wangren as he goes through the corner. Stewart had nothing to do but try to get out of everyone's way. We see the 15 of Donnie Reavers getting through there. And again, a very tight racetrack this early on. A lot of guys thinking, I only had a couple laps of practice. I hope we make it through the first 15 or 20.
Well, two abreast when they haven't had a lot of lap time out here has got to be a little unnerving, and people checking up and the like, and it definitely caught out. Looks like Stewart got the worst of it, and that car is still stationary on the track. Wreckers are on scene.
Well, these are fiberglass body panels, and I'm just trying to figure out if that rear end, yeah, it's out of kilter. You see the right rear wheel is wobbling. It looks like he knocked the rear end out of center. His crew chief, Gene Roberts, will have his work cut out for him. Again, as Greg Stewart mentioned, he's from North Carolina, now moved to Georgia to the shops of Gene Roberts, his crew chief, and wanted to put on a great show in his home state.
Well, they've got the car restarted, so you may be able to get down the pits and get it taken care of here. And while we have a shot here, problem for Stewart, and they're going to try and get that car started again and get it down the pits. Meanwhile, we're going to step away, but as we do, we talked to some of the drivers earlier about who their favorite drivers are. Here's what Greg Stewart said.
My favorite racer would probably have to be Kenny Schrader, because my first ASA race was in one of his race cars in 1997 at my home track.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are at Concord Motorsport Park, and we are already under a caution, and here's the reason why, the incident that really affected more than anybody else, Greg Stewart. Here's the tails away angle.
Greg Stewart started 17th, just ahead of Troy Wangren. He gets hit in the back end as they go into turn number 1. Stewart spins high. Other cars are collected below.
Well, he just gathered up the wall. He's now in the pits. Ken?
Yeah, you can see the right rear way out of shape here for Greg Stewart. I had a chance to ask him what happened, and I can tell you right now, we cannot repeat those words on Speed Channel. He is very, very upset with Mr. Wangren. It's going to take these guys a few moments. Again, the hometown boy this time will not find any luck.
Quite literally a tough break, and he was looking so forward to having a good run here. A lot of his friends, family have driven down. He's not based too far away from here. That's a tough pill to swallow.
And they really wanted to make an improvement. We lined up on points. 17th is not where they wanted to be 3 races in. Now they'd be worse than that.
Your call.
All right, now you listen to some of the communication. We're going to get back down to Rob with problems continuing for the 91 of Klug.
Trevor Stewart, the crew chief, you know, you missed the first 2 races, struggled here at the early going tonight. What has happened to this race car?
It's some bad luck. We broke a gear or a pinion or a ratchet, something in the rear end. We actually made the first race in Lakeland, and we got a good finish. Last week wasn't so good. And we got in on our owner points for this run, and we're pretty happy with that. We didn't mind starting in the back. We had a good car. Figured we could race good today, but just broke before we even got a start on it. So
out early for Jesse Klug, but still, Trevor Stewart manages to smile, guys.
Well, after all the problems, as we go back to green in the opening 2 rounds, another tough one for them. But the smile tells you they'll be back and they will continue. We're back to green here in the early going. Good look there at the number 2 of Chad Wood, who really had a stellar run at Houston and is looking to back that up once again. Oh, look at the move. Miller trying to get down and underneath. The number 1 of Sawinski couldn't quite get it done. But Butch Miller, who reported some problems in practice, amazingly, Jim, that car now looks like it's sticking pretty much anywhere.
And what's amazing to me is the pace that Kevin Sawinski is setting. Usually veterans are the first to tell us, you know what, let some rabbits go out there. Whoever qualifies first, we'll just kind of let it settle in and go racing from there. These guys from the outset have been on the button.
And number 1, Sawinski lets it ride. And oh, we've got another big incident. And the number 60 involved.
Ed Brown spun.
That's Ed Brown, Wangren again, and the 7 of St. Amand, who had talked in the open about needing to get through the pack clean and get to the front.
He is literally stuck underneath the Chevrolet of Wangren right now. The 7 car, the Janet King Chevy of Gary St. Amand. You know, it's almost typifying his season. What a rough start the champ, 2-time champ, has had this year.
Let's go back and see if we can pick up another angle on it. We got just the tail end of it. As it unfolded, here's what happened.
Ed Brown was out of shape already off of turn 4, hits the wall. Now he spins the inside. You think he's clear. He's all the way down at the wall, but then Wangert, and here comes St. Amant inside.
Nowhere to go. And that was what you were talking to a little bit in the open as you come out of this. Bang! Oh! And that's right where there's been a little seepage onto the track, but he was loose before he even got there.
This is a tricky racetrack. It can gobble you up, and I know that Rich Bickle, who's been around this track many times, talked in the driver's meeting. He just stepped in and said, guys, you got to respect the racetrack. It can come up and bite you. We saw how much of a chunk it took out of the back end and the side of Ed Brown's car.
As I was going to say, when you were talking about the track during the track map, is you get so much speed built up going through 2 and into 3. But what happens then is you try and carry too much out of 3 onto the front straight. You're in trouble. Let's check in with Rob.
Wow, what does Gary St. Amant have to do to buy a break? Here he sits again for the 3rd time this season in early trouble. He's assessing the damage. The nose of his machine right up underneath the rear of Troy Rangwarden's automobile. Ed Brown still sits in his car. He's now unbuckling himself as he prepares to climb out of his race car. All drivers okay, Ken?
Bill Plemons sent Gary St. Amant a little good luck charm. As you can see here was the hare. He says, you know what, usually we're chasing the hare. Lately you've been the tortoise. Well, unfortunately, he has problems again, as you just mentioned, and will remain a tortoise. It looks like the good luck hare did not work for him here at Concord.
Well, Ken, it's interesting as well because right now St. Amant is talking to the record drivers saying, get Wangert's car off my nose. I think I can still go racing. We'll find out if that's doable when we come back. We've talked about this is in the heart of stock car country. Only 20-25 miles away at most is Mooresville, North Carolina, home to a number of the big teams, including Roush Racing, who field a huge number of cars in Winston Cup. We are now live back here watching the action, or at this point the caution here at Concord Motorsports Park. There's Gary St. Amant trying to get going. Here is what happened.
Ed Brown on top of the screen here, out of shape, and as he hits the wall, he gets into that oil dry, gets down on the racetrack. You think he's clear. This is Troy Wangert, and right there he gets into him, and Gary had nowhere to go because Peter Cozzolino was the Gary's outside.
And Rob, you've managed to corral a very determined Gary St. Amant.
Well, just about a minute ago, we were prepared to talk to Gary. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for him, his car is now free of the other automobile of Troy Wangert. He's driving away, heading back to pit road. Gary said he assessed the damage as perhaps nothing more than a radiator. Guys?
Well, and if it's not a hole too bad, he may just be able to do something about it. He's certainly checking out the handling of that car right now. But what a tough start to the season at Lakeland. He got hit by Brent Sontag when he lost his brakes, was out of the race. He was a little upset about it as well. Didn't know that there had been a mechanical problem for Sontag. And then on the very slippery Houston track, all by himself, it got away from him as he was trying to move up, lost an awful lot of space. So once again, there he is, making his way now behind the wall. They're trying to work on that car and see if it is race worthy and get him back out. As I said earlier, we're happy to have Bob Dillner back in the broadcast, and let's check in with him.
Well, ASA certainly does build champions, and David Stremme here, last year's Rookie of the Year in ASA, is proof positive of that. He's in the NASCAR Busch Series right now, but David, you know what Gary St. Amant is going through right now, some tough luck, and you spoke to him this morning.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Gary's had a rough time here beginning of the year, sort of the way my season started out last year, but you know, Gary's a very strong person. There's still a long season ahead. So, I mean, you have to think about they got to go back, build the car, and go out there and get some valuable points and look towards the next race. It's a misfortune. We're short track racing, and you know, you got to have patience. That's something I talked to Ryan about earlier. You know, it's something that you preach and preach, and Howard does a very good job at that.
David, you're with the 11 team last year, of course, watching Ryan Hemphill in that car, but what did ASA do for you?
I'll tell you what, it really helped me on the long races and just pacing yourself and being patient, kind of being a heads up, you know, how hard you want to race around certain guys and put yourself in position to win. ASA is great with the radial tires here, really helped me to translate over to the yellow Dodge that I'm driving now. So I give a lot of credit here in helping to change to the Busch Series.
And guys, David Stremme had a whale of a debut in the Busch Series at Nashville. He finished 7th. David Stremme will be joining us tonight to give us perspective on what's going on in this race.
Well, and that tells you what ASA can do for a driver. Now, there's the number 10 of Greg Williams, and he's running a slightly different color. Well, we've talked about the incidents. Greg Williams, unfortunately, like Gary St. Amant, as Rob Albright found out earlier, knows some crashing this year.
The bestseller, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, could have been written about Greg Williams. Just witnessed this grinding crash that destroyed his number 10 Chevrolet a week ago at Houston. Greg Williams epitomizes the spirit of ASA. He races on a limited budget, part-time, and he's even hired his 17-year-old nephew, Lance Allen, to serve as his crew chief. But this weekend at Concord Motorsport Park, Greg will drive a borrowed race car. Tell us about that, Greg.
Well, after we destroyed our only car last week at Houston, we weren't even going to come to this race. Got a phone call Wednesday. Ken Causey out of Mississippi told me to come get his car, and I could use it until I got my other one fixed, and we drove down Mississippi, picked it up, and here we are tonight.
A former track champion at Kentucky Speedway, home of the NASCAR Racing Green Brothers and Waltrips, Greg Williams hopes that some good luck comes tonight via his Rent-A-Racer.
And the pace car's in. We're about to go back to green, and there it flies. We're racing, completing lap 21. And everybody just smartly locks into single file, just trying to get this one going and underway. Good look there. Garvey has led a number of laps in the early going here, including the first, 60 plus at Lakeland, and looked very strong in the early going at Houston as well. Watch for him to go to the front. And Jim, we were talking a little bit about Butch Miller. After practice, Butch had some words for the crew that the car was virtually undrivable in terms of any hope of a win. And he gave him some interesting comments.
Well, Butch Miller told his crew, Dion Dino, the crew chief, was with him. He said, you know what, guys, we had a limited practice. I don't care what you do to the car. We're not going to win with the setup. Change whatever you have to change. Don't even tell me what you do. Give me a better piece. And certainly paying off right now.
Well, he did not know what he had going into it, but he sure likes it. And I said earlier, that car looks like it's sticking anywhere on the track right now. And not only did he get by Sawinski, the old freight train came into play here, and Sawinski got frozen out, and he's now back to 5th. Garvey taking a run at Pyle, and Sawinski trying to tuck back in and get behind number 5 Beebe at this point, but Miller's out front in 63 and Pyle in 2nd. But right there, Garvey all over the back of him. Oh, Garvey tries to turn down underneath and got a little loose, but it may have given him the... It did. Boy, did he get a drive out of 2.
Garvey is driven right now in the bottom of the racetrack. You saw Robbie Pyle make a more traditional line and run, and that's where Garvey opened the door. Now Travis Kittleson doing the same in that black number 30 car.
Well, just trying to get that fender down underneath there and muscle your way through. He does, and he brings Beebe right along with him. And I think part of what we're seeing is so much of the practice was one groove that when you get out wide a little bit, you don't quite have the grip that you need. Let's check in with Ken Stout.
Ed Brown just climbing out of the 60 car. You had some moments of brilliance at Houston, did a great job there, and then had some problems. But tonight you have major problems.
Yeah, we tore it up pretty good tonight. Feel bad for my team, my sponsor, Grubbs Auto Repair, Eustace Roofing, and a few good friends.
Obviously, a big smile on the face, but there's a lot of frustration inside of that heart, guys.
Just a tough way to start a great night of racing, and that's part and parcel of the game here right now. And there is Butch Miller, and look at the lead he is opening up. That car is glued. That's what having a Dion calling the shots will do for you. Send you out front. It doesn't hurt to have a Butch Miller behind the wheel who can adapt quickly. Here's your top 10 after 29 of 250 laps. Welcome back to Concord Motorsports Park. Third caution of the evening has flown, and it was a grinding crash. And it looks like this gentleman, young Shane Saig, is the driver who got the worst of it in terms of the damage. But look at what happened here. It all started. Cleaver looked like he got loose.
Cosolino's on the brakes here, and on the inside goes Shane Sieg. There's Stephen Light climbing the left rear tire of Shane Sieg, the orange 23 of Stephen Light, and the rest of the field has to thread their way through. Todd Cleaver gets tapped here by Peter Cosolino. That blue car going, the red car of Cosolino stops to not hit anything. And then to the inside, wow. Stephen Light was to the inside. Shane Sieg never saw him, and as he came down the racetrack, that's where they made that big contact.
Boy, Sieg, well, listen to this, folks. Now, how is that for in-your-face coverage? That's what it was like. And for Sieg, that had to be a little bit spooky, because for a minute, I mean, Stephen Light's right front wheel was almost in the cockpit with him. That was a tough, tough go. Let's check in with Rob Albright.
This is Larry Rapp, crew chief for Shane Sieg. Larry, what happened out there and how significant is the damage?
We really haven't got a good look at the damage yet, but it looks fairly bad. The car is stacked up in front of us. We were slowing down at Concord. Straightaways are pretty narrow. There's no place to go. They kind of stacked up. We got it from the front, behind, and right now we got to get the car in here and get a look at it, but it doesn't look real good.
Shane Sieg, another young rookie driver with high expectations, dashed tonight at Concord, guys.
All right, thanks, Rob. Speaking of high expectations, there's a number of NASCAR Busch drivers who are going to be looking for in California for Busch qualifying, and we'll have it for you right here on Speed next Friday, 4:30 p.m. live from California, NASCAR Busch qualifying. So make sure you tune in and watch how things unfold for the NASCAR Busch Group out in California next Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live right here, of course, on Speed. Let's check in once again with Bob Dillner. Bob, what you got?
Well, Joey Clanton was last year's ASA champion. 9 wins to his credit. He's here at Concord tonight. You haven't run in the Busch Series just yet, but you do have a ride. So what has ASA already done to prepare you for your combat in the Busch Series?
Well, I'll tell you, this is probably the toughest short track racing there is. So, I mean, the competition level at the Busch level is every bit as much as here. So it's prepared me in that aspect. You got to go out and you're going to fight. You know, there's 43 cars in the Busch Series. There's 34 here tonight. And, you know, being able to run with those guys and being up front, that's where, I mean, that's the biggest thing it's taught me is you gotta be on top of your toes all the time.
You finished 6th here 2 years ago. We've seen 3 cautions already tonight. You saw that one right in front of our eyes. How do you manhandle this racetrack?
I tell you what, you don't. I don't think you manhandle this racetrack. It's like a roller coaster ride. If you rode a roller coaster, you just go along for the ride because it's going to beat you to death, and you just hold on.
And Greg, that is one of the things we spoke about earlier. Many different elevation changes on this racetrack. It is like a roller coaster ride.
That's true. A lot of the banking deviations come with a little bit of an elevation change. Here's a good look at our leader right now. Let's check in with Ken Stout.
You know, guys, we always talk about taking spring rubbers out, putting spring rubbers in, and how it drastically changes a car. Well, Butch Middle put a spring rubber in the left rear, and this is what they look like. They literally separate this thing, stick it inside of the coil lays on top of this, and of course it'll stiffen the car up a little bit, or if they take it out, it'll soften things up a little bit. Almost everybody has stiffened their car up to race here coming from Houston. Guys?
Thanks very much, Ken. And there is Butch Miller, and who can argue with whatever they did on that car, because that car is hooked up and sticking everywhere as we've completed 39 of 250 laps. Good look at your top 10. Miller, Garvey, Kittleson, Beebe, and Pyle round out the top 5 with Sawinski, Sorensen, and the rest. We've been visiting with drivers about who their favorite drivers are. And for this gentleman, Mike Garvey, it's the guy right in front of him.
I'd probably have to say Butch Miller. I mean, growing up, I watched Busch race all the time. I worked at Port City Racing, and Butch was unbeatable. And I just liked how he raced. He was always clean, professional, and I'd have to say if I had a favorite, it'd be Butch Miller.
Along with a look at NASCAR Busch qualifying, there will be NASCAR Bud Pole qualifying coming up from California as well, also next Friday. It'll follow Busch qualifying at 6 p.m. live, of course, because it's here on Speed. So don't miss it. NASCAR Bud Pole qualifying from California next Friday, 6 p.m. live right here on Speed. Well, in the early going, Sawinski led, but Rob, he has dropped back noticeably.
I'm with Mike Chaffee, his crew chief. Mike, your driver started from the pole. He slipped back to 6th, yet you don't seem to be too distressed.
Well, there's really not too much we can do about it right now. Once we get running, the car is pretty good, but we kind of screwed up and started the air pressures a little bit too low, so he's getting down into turn 3 and bottoming the car out real bad, and it just skates up the track, and we kind of got freight trained there.
The points leader trying to make it back-to-back wins along road to hoe here tonight, Ken Stout.
Dion Deneau, crew chief, of course, for Butch Miller, number 2 in the points right now. Butch Miller said we can't win with the setup that's inside of the car, but it looks like he's doing pretty good.
I'll tell you what, the Timberwolf Chevrolet was a handful in practice today. We didn't test here. We didn't get it quite right in practice, but just before the race, we made a bunch of changes, kind of threw the kitchen sink at it. So we'll get some pit stops here, and hopefully Wolfpack can make some adjustments. We'll get up front.
Boy, if these guys can make some adjustments and make the car even better, it'll be a tough night for everybody else in the field. Guys?
Thanks very much, gentlemen. And look at what had to unfold here to be able to get this race going. Right where they're digging is where they had the biggest problem with water, because the grandstand and the terrain is actually higher than the track. So, Jim, it would seep off the edge, and they tried oil dry. They tried even like a green potting stuff and to absorb it. And finally, they went to that dam, and then they started digging behind the wall.
There were crew members, there were ASA officials with hole diggers digging holes. They finally got that Kubota in there to get that dug out. But as you can see, there's no water in this trough right here, right now, but the water was seeping on the racetrack underneath the front straightaway wall.
And you wonder why that backhoe is still there. It's there to keep pressure on that wall just in case of an incident. They really tried to think of everything. Let's check in once again with Bob Billner. Bob?
Well, Greg, we spoke earlier about how we are in the heart of NASCAR racing. And this guy right here, Lauren Ranier, he is one of the top NASCAR scouts in the business. He comes to ASA and looks at the young guys. So, Lauren, what do you see here tonight?
Well, there's obviously some talented young guys out here, and we've definitely got our eye on a few of them. I mean, there's some very talented young guys out here.
Why ASA? Why in particular you picked David Stremme from last year and brought him over to the Yellow Racing team? Why ASA? Why is it so good?
Well, it's a great series. Obviously, there's been a lot of successful drivers come out of this series, and they run on this radial tire now. The competition's really close. It's a good training ground.
Like I said, guys, a lot of high-profile guys as we go green.
We are indeed green, and Butch Miller leads him to the strike down into turn 1 once again. Out of 1 and into that high-speed run up into turn 2. Right behind him is Garvey. As they complete another lap, let's kick back, listen to the sounds of speed. Once again during that, you can hear the sound of the rev limiters kicking in, and they actually gear the cars. So before they get into turn 3 here, Jim, where they carry their highest terminal speed, those rev limiters actually help them slow the cars down.
These are fuel-injected motors, and they're electronically controlled, and what that does, it actually retards the timing and helps slow that car down without having to use as much brake pedal.
It's interesting. We were talking about Miller and the changes he made, and I've watched him going through turn 2 in particular. Sparks coming off that right rear, which would tell me that that car, they maybe softened it up a bit. But others, everybody said they're going stiff. And I'm watching Garvey, and he seems to be throwing the car a little bit into the corners, getting the back end to come out, which a stiffer setup would do. But boy, does he seem to get a drive out of 2 and into 3.
If you saw last Saturday night's race from Houston, you saw Mike Garvey dirt tracking out of the groove. Now he's in the groove, really centered on the inside line. As Butch Miller weaves up, this is where Mike Garvey may take advantage, coming through that tricky second corner as they're flat on the gas pedal all the way from turn 1 down to 3 here.
You saw that sparking again for Miller. I mean, that car is laying down, but it's giving him bite. But boy, Garvey, now he gets the fender underneath, and he just rocketed by. And I don't know whether maybe Miller broke the tires loose and the rev limiter kicked in too soon, but Garvey went by him suddenly like he was standing still. Or maybe Butch realized, I better get off the gas here. I'm going to be way wide into 1.
You mentioned Mike Garvey had led the race last race. He led the race laps at Lakeland, one of the few drivers to lead in each of the first 2 events this season. Starting 5th, quickly progressing through the field. We saw Robbie Pyle have trouble, Sawinski trouble. Garvey has guessed right early here with his young crew.
And there is Mr. Beebe, who finds himself once again up in the top 5. And Ken, he's slowly edging his way to the front. Well, we got a problem there, but no problems for Miller as he gets back underneath Garvey. But Garvey now goes for the counter punch. Tries to get down underneath going into 1. This time Miller protects it a little bit. And Garvey slips back. In fact, loses a little bit of momentum, Jim. And here comes Kittleson. And it was interesting as we were going to try and go on board here. Remember, we've had some serious weather, a very low ceiling. And so there's some breakup, but we wanted to try and get one of those shots for you. But for Kittleson, even though he was fastest in practice, he wasn't happy with how the car was coming off the corners. So they asked for a little bit of a change in that car as well. And apparently they've dialed them up a pretty good one.
With these cars, as even as they are, one thing they can change is the shock and spring package and the gearing. They ended up changing the gear to get Travis more of what he wanted, most likely power off the corners, because they'll be getting that momentum, as you saw Mike Garvey into the corners where you gain the momentum to pass underneath on the way off.
Well, when you get out of 1, I mean, you got to get the launch out of 1 to set you up for that run flat out through 2 and fast into 3. Oh, look at this battle here. Refner along with Hemphill. That is right now the battle for the 8th spot. Refner has it. Here comes Cope. 25 Cope down underneath Hemphill. Hemphill got a little tied up, and there's the veteran going after the rookie. Hemphill was a little bit more concerned, obviously, with Refner, and Cope just simply pounced. I think that's Glenn Allen Jr., the silver number 53, right behind Hemphill. And he cuts down low. Hemphill's car looks like it may be a little bit loose. Back end trying to come around. And Here comes Allen. Can he get it done? No, not at this time. And the 0-5, Chris Wimmer working up on this group. Well, we've got ourselves a pack fighting through the back here.
Chris Wimmer's advanced 7 positions now behind this cluster in the 0-5 cars. They come through turn 3 now. Back of the leaders, you see Butch Miller's actually be able to hold off now and get a little bit of momentum going here.
Looking for Robbie Pyle. There he is right now. Sits in that top 5. And Robbie was one of the drivers we talked about. Who does he consider a hero? He's from Columbus. He picked a local driver and a legend.
My favorite racer is a local guy in Columbus, Ohio there, John Ballo. Grew up watching him race, win a lot of races, pretty neat guy. And also Ed Howe's got to be one of those guys, pretty neat guy to talk to and learn from.
Welcome back, and the folks from BF Goodrich Tires looking for the best view they could possibly get. Kind of reminds you of an old Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, you ever see Mad Max, that movie where the guy with the big goggles and the big ugly teeth is like, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Well, this is a crazy ride. Look at this guy. He's got room for one more, Greg, on the back. You want to jump on?
Sure, I would. Just like Garvey goes by Miller here. And I'll tell you what, these two having a great seesaw battle. And looks like we get a little bit of an action, and we go green for a while. And we have a yellow that has come out, where yellow once again field off the throttle. And boy, did Garvey time that beautifully to be able to dive underneath Butch Miller and pick it up before the yellow came out. It was just pure luck, of course, but hey, it's still good fortune nonetheless. Good look there at the number 98 of Doug Stevens. Circulating slowly. He's got some damage to the right front corner. I don't know if that's...
He's got about 3 rolls of racer tape holding that hood on that machine. A new paint job for Doug. A nice effort out of Lovejoy, Georgia, but I'm guessing that he had something to do with this caution because he was involved earlier, and perhaps that tape job isn't doing its job mechanically or aerodynamically right now for Doug Stevens.
I wonder if something came off the car, perhaps. Now, interestingly, you see we've completed 73 of 250 laps past the 5th of the waypoint, but more importantly, the guys that are thinking they can do this on a splash jump, this might be the opportunity they're looking for to make a move down to the pits and do some fuel and get that out of the way. We'll certainly see here. I don't think anybody up front's going to take that risk, but who knows? Come back, see if we can figure out what happened here. Yeah, there he goes.
Down to the inside. Peter Cozzolino gets in the backside of the silver red Chevy. Peter Cozzolino in the red car again involved on the front stretch, and here he was just into turn 1 when he nipped the back end of Doug Stevens.
So it was just a yellow. They didn't know if he was going to go around and hit anything. They threw the yellow, no cleanup per se. So we should be able to get back to green here quite quickly. But for Cozzolino, that's 2. He got into Cleaver, and now he gets into the back of Stevens. Stevens, fortunately, gets away with it. No hassles there. We do have some cars queuing up down low, trying to make their way into the pits.
Including Kevin Sawinski.
Sawinski coming in. I think Kittleson may be making the move as well. So pit lane could be hopping here in just a minute. And here they come. That's the safety director out there in the four-wheeler who responds to any incident. And he's just getting off track, but here we go. And there you can see it. Garvey, there's Kittleson, middle of that screen on the left. Boy, did he get in and out in a hurry. Garvey's elected to stay out. There's 44 Cozzolino. That little wrinkle again on that right front corner. Just going for fuel.
There's some new rule changes. If you're joining us for Speed Channel coverage of ASA for the first time, notice the teams are changing fuel, putting fuel in or tires. We saw a lot of fuel cans going on. The rule is you cannot change tires and fuel the car on the same pit stop under the same yellow.
Well, we heard earlier, too, that a few of the drivers think they can do this race with a splash of fuel, but that they might be able to do it without tires. And so that means they can come in on a mandatory stop and just stop and go, essentially, once they get fuel in the car. And we've got very cool conditions here. The track pretty green, just enough rubber down that may give the tires some life. And a few of the drivers went the entire race at Houston on the same set, so it's possible. Here's our pit summary, and you can see Garvey in and out just that fast. What a move. Miller only lost a spot. Beebe lost a couple, and the rest of the pack. But Butch Miller has shown a good turn of speed here in the early going. And, you know, we talked to Butch Miller about who his favorite driver is, and when you're a legend like Butch, who do you choose? Well, he found 2 awfully good ones.
You know, there's been plenty of good ones, but probably the best 2, and that's because I just can't do it any other way. Richard Petty and A.J. Foyt. Opposite ends of the spectrum. A.J. would chew your head off, and Richard would sign anything you want signed. So, I don't know, both great drivers.
Welcome back. We have just gone back to green. Garvey leads over Butch Miller, and Beebe sits in third at this stage as they come out, and some good battling. Oh, look at this scrap right here. Hemphill and the number 3 of Bill Clemens involved as in. Now, Hemphill sits in the 6th spot. Clemens down a lap, but he's right in the middle of some serious racing going on. That's number 66 of Jurkovic there. There you see the number 30 of Travis Kittleson. Now, he made a stop during the yellow that we had, and it went anything but smoothly. Take a look at this.
Whoa, that's Peter Cozzolino trying to come in. He was getting out a very tight pit road. The car changing rights on the pit road.
It looks like Cozzolino caught him just right in between the 2 right side tires, and hopefully didn't do any damage to the chassis at all, just some of the body work. Looks like Kittleson right now sits pretty racy and is not losing anything at this stage. There's 29 Sorensen right in front of him, and the 09 of J.C. Beatty going out wide. Sorensen trying to work his way up. And here we go. Kittleson coming along for the ride as Beatty gets trapped out wide. And look who's right behind. 30 Kittleson is the 25 of Cope.
Mike Cope in the Florida Auto Auction Chevy wanted more track time, and now it looks like he's settled into a groove. Kittleson, being one of the faster cars out here, is a great leader for the 25 of Cope to get through some of this traffic.
Boy, and Beatty's got to be screaming. Oh, he gets tapped by the number 80. Running a little wide was Refner. Just got into the back of Beatty. And Beatty now able to, like, I don't know why, Beatty seems to be struggling to get back down onto the groove. But now he's trapped behind Clemens. Sorry.
He's running in the 11th position, so he's not technically a lap down or anything, but it seems like his car is not up to song, as the cars that pitted, including Kevin Sawinski in the 1 car, have all now cycled past the 09 of Beatty.
Meanwhile, up front, Garvey and the 52 of Miller. These 2 guys, the war continues. And after stops, I mean, look at Miller. Looks like his tires come up very, very quickly. He looks to the inside, but the longer the run grows, the 17 of Garvey seems to come alive a little bit as well. Now we're going to park and watch this. We're going to let a lap go in, and what's going to unfold here, we're going to give you a full field rundown on lap speeds, how quick they're getting around this very fast tri-oval here. Ooh, little wiggle by Miller as he's trying to work underneath Garvey. Not able to do it, but that little bit of a wiggle, got to have a big grin on Beebe's face right now, knowing that he's sticking with him and that he doesn't look to be pushing that car too hard. And Pyle right there. Here's what we're talking about. The speeds that are unfolding. Now the track record here was a 115-mile-an-hour lap in qualifying in 01 in perfect conditions. It's anything but that out here now. No rubber down on the track, and these guys are still up in the 105-mile-an-hour range during a race.
That was a very warm day, about 50 degrees warmer it felt like in 2001, the only series visit here to Concord Motorsports Park. And Johnny Sauter and Travis Kittleson were the only 2 leaders that day. We've already seen Kevin Sawinski, Butch Miller, and Mike Garvey go at it for the lead early on, swapping it back and forth already.
Well, Williams kind of got caught there, and Garvey swung wide to go around him, and I thought he was heading right to the wall. And again, he was able to just sort of throw the car into the corner a little bit, let it take a bite, and launched off. And I think Miller said, oh, here's an opportunity. And then watch Garvey actually open up a little bit of a margin on it. Here's a good scrap here between Beebe. And let's check in first with Ken Stout. Ken?
One of Rick Beebe's crew members, Larry Grosjean, who's the jack man and the fuel man, is yet to be put to the test here tonight, but he will be sooner or later. And to add insult to injury, he has a double hernia. So he really shouldn't even be here. And he said, please don't tell my wife. I could go out of here worse than I came in, guys.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't let the cat out of the bag to anybody other than, a few million people out there.
I think there'll be a different setting at the Easter brunch tomorrow morning in his house. Honey, you want to tell me something?
Beebe continues to hold off the 63 of Pyle, but coming up and around the outside there, very aggressive move by Davin Seitz.
The Davin Seitz in that silver 06, sponsored by John Michael Montgomery, the country star. He has had more laps here at Concord Motor Speedway in a late model than most drivers have had here in practice or qualifying. He used to come here weekly from West Virginia.
Well, he popped outside and did it with some serious confidence. He knew something that he could pull off there. He is all over the back of Beebe right now as they work around the number 3 of Clemens, who's a little off the pace. And Seitz right there, closes up. Ooh, very quick run in, but has to check up just a little bit. And now our 4 leaders, make it 5, are in some serious traffic.
Davin Seitz trying to be patient. Again, we talked about patience and lasting the 250 laps. He's making his first attempt at a full season in ASA, trying to hang on to what could be the fastest car on the racetrack right now and hold back the reins a bit.
Here's a look at the number 7 of Gary St. Amant. The Janneke car is running without any aero help up front. They got all the body work off that car, which means that car is going to be pretty much of a brick aerodynamically, but at least he's able to, he's running some pretty quick laps when you think about it.
And he was able to keep the front bumper on the car. Just mostly body work has come off. So if you need to do a little bump in your running, Gary St. Amant has nothing to lose at this point to trying to gain position. He's one of the cleanest racers out here, but the frustration we saw boil to a head at both the first 2 events this season.
The problem for him right now is he's over 40 laps off the pace. It took him that long to get it cleared up and then get the work done on the car. So he's just out there hoping to garner anything in terms of some leftover points. Here's a look at 11, Hemphill. Jurkovic, 66, right behind him, and 29, Sorensen. This is your battle for 6th.
And it's a rookie battle as well. Jurkovic trying to do the full season with Phil Hines Racing and John Brolick at the controls of what goes on in the race. And the 11 car, Brian Hemphill, took over for David Stremme, this Meyer team led by Howie Leto.
Hemphill doing a nice job. Oh, Sorensen trying to get a fender underneath the 66 of Jurkovic, and it didn't happen. But Rob Albright, right now, Sorensen on the move.
Reed Sorensen stopped under the most recent caution for fuel only. Jody Wilkerson, what's he saying about the race car?
Reed said the car's pretty good right now. We're just basically biding our time. We came in and got a little fuel in there a while ago, and under USA rules, we got to stop twice. So we're just going to bide our time right now, try to stay out of wrecks, stay out of trouble, you know.
One of the early race movers is that machine of Reed Sorensen, guys.
Well, it is, and it looked, Rob, like he was going to get Jurkovic as Jurkovic got real crossed up, as he does again right there. But Sorensen just not able to do anything with them, as we are now past 100. As a matter of fact, completing 104 laps of the 250 that have been already run here and are scheduled to run tonight. And there is a look at your top 10 as we are well past the 100-lap mark, which means still way over half of the race to go. And here's some of the great racing at the front that we've witnessed already between Butch Miller and Mike Garvey. Currently, Garvey's in command. Welcome back to Concord Motorsports Park, and you see that Garvey is chasing the rookie 06 Davin Seitz, and it's basically, I think, a case of the fact that he's got some immense track knowledge here, and others may not. He knows something about the line here. Watch this move.
We noted that Mike Garvey was really good on the bottom of the racetrack. Lap cars present opportunity for Davin Seitz. He pins in Butch Miller here, and he wasn't done there. He got him for second on that one.
But watch what he did here. Garvey, where his car was working great, no worries. Seitz, I mean, around the outside and by him, like there's an anchor on Garvey's car. Seitz knows something about this track. Ken, he's putting it to use.
Kim Atkins is down here. Boy, what a great run you guys have going.
It looks good so far. We're just keeping our fingers crossed. If we get our 2 pit stops out of the way, we're good for the rest of it.
They're concerned about the pit stop, and the whole crew here very, very happy. And Kim, just a few moments ago, said the track is just coming to them.
Well, they put an incredible setup on the car. Now, check this out. He started 29th because of qualifying being washed out in the owner's points, as were yellow. Jurkovic goes around, others involved. Casalino again. And, well, the 08 involved of Casey Smith, others as well. But what I was saying was that he may have started 29th, but he turned what, the top 7th quickest time in practice, just to tick off some of the others. So he showed the speed in practice, and they've obviously got this thing dialed as we are under yellow. There's a good look at the 06 of Seitz. Boy, he's got to be grinning in that helmet. Here's what happened, Jim.
Down to the bottom, looks like Mike Cope comes up the racetrack, gets into Boris Jurkovic, and it narrows up so much coming off of turn 4. Jurkovic to the bottom, and again, he slides up on the racetrack, trying to stay out of the way, but it's still a couple other cars were involved. Here again, Cope comes up the racetrack and nails Jurkovic. Cope's car just coming out of the groove, and Jurkovic had nowhere to go but spin around after that contact.
And Casalino lights him up and goes around just to avoid, as does the 08 of Casey Smith. Now watch this from our speed cam.
Split-second decisions, where to go, high or low, are made off of that corner. 1/20th of a second, 1/30th of a second is when you have to decide. I'm going high, going low, and your spotter has to help you through it as well.
And it was obvious that Casalino, and I didn't catch the other car, actually they checked up and they got nudged by a third car I couldn't quite grab the number of, so it was interesting, and the guy who got away with probably the least damage out of the whole bunch was Jerkovic.
Yeah, and that's the front. That's Mike Cope's fender. That's a souvenir for someone, and we'll see if he puts that back on the car. But again, fiberglass bodies on these ASA machines. Scott Isaacs, the safety director, getting that stuff cleaned up.
And you have to give kudos. You saw when we had that shot of Isaacs, that dam that they put up on the just on the downside of the track there to stop some of that weeping has paid off. It has worked beautifully. All right, Seitz coming in, and he's heading right at Ken Stout. Ken?
Yeah, Devin Seitz is coming in here. Now, keep in mind, these guys had a little bit of trouble in Lakeland. In fact, so much that Devin actually changed one of his tire changers. It looks like they'll come in here, put some fuel in. They're going to leave the tires alone, although they're checking something on checking tire pressure on the right-hand side. So they are filling this thing up, and they'll have to come back in again. Let's go to Rob.
Mike Garvey is on pit road as well. You can see the fuel tank is on the left side of the race car. Fuel only. That's all you can do, either fuel or tires. It's fuel for Garvey, but a relatively slow stop. J.C. Beatty tries to dive on pit road in front of him, and there's a collision. Garvey runs into the rear of Beatty's automobile, now must back up the WJP machine. Now he turns out onto pit road, just barely clearing J.C. Beatty's machine. A devastating pit stop for Mike Garvey, guys.
A terrible stop, and on top of it all, as he pulled out, it looked like Beatty's right rear tire changer. He may have grazed him as well. Now here's a look at the front end now of Garvey's car, and I'll tell you, this track, Jim, is fast enough that that'll definitely upset the aero.
Well, he hit J.C. Beatty. This actually hit the ground as he got underneath the nose, so that nose is going to be very affected here on over 100 miles per hour. Watch as he leaves here. See the bodywork buckle up on the hood. The whole front clip now may be jostled loose on
Yeah, you'll see it here too, I think, right here. He goes, boom. Oh, it loosened up that whole right corner as well. So that could not only the bodywork on the nose being bent, but if he's loosened up some of those clips where that bodywork attaches to the chassis itself, he could be in some serious issues right here. So it was a mess. Here's our pit summary in this one. Now Seitz in first, out fifth. And Garvey obviously is absolutely buried in the pack as a result. Some other problems as well. And right now the lead is shown to be, according to timing and scoring, Doug Stevens, who has not stopped. So this will be interesting. There's your second place car of Cleaver at this stage. And then the 52 of Butch Miller, who never seems to run afoul of strategy. And that's all part of building champions. And Bob Dillner, you're our point man on that.
Oh, there you go there, Greg. We're up in the suites now here at Concord Motorsport Park and have run into Kyle Busch. Kyle was a rookie here in ASA last year. He's now running some Busch Series races for Hendrick Motorsports, and he won an ARCA race last week. But question is, why was your best finish in ASA last year a fourth then?
I couldn't answer that one straight faced, but we didn't do so well there last year. We had a few good finishes. Fourth was being our best in a couple times, but I'm looking out here tonight. Last week my car finished third, so I don't know what my deal was, but tonight he's running up in the top five. Rick Beebe in the old blue 07 car, now this year 5, but really excited to be out here watching the old boys run around again, and it's a great feeling to be back.
How much did you learn here with a complete season in ASA last season?
A tremendous amount. I couldn't tell you how much. I mean, these tires here were radial tires, sort of like the Goodyears that you run in Winston Cup and those stages, the BFGs. The cars, they're heavy just like Winston Cup cars, and we learned a ton here about setups and stuff like that we can sort of use, but nonetheless, it was a tough series, and you'll grind your teeth here if you come to ASA Racing.
Kyle Busch has a pretty good seat up here in the suites, but so does Ken Stout on pit road.
I have a great analogy for you guys. You know, a lot of people at home think, well, how could it affect the aero on a short track car when these guys aren't going that fast? Well, if you've ever stuck your hand outside of the window when you're traveling about 60 miles an hour down the road and moved it one way or the other, you feel how drastically that wind can move your hand. Picture these guys at over 100 miles an hour, how much can affect them.
And it comes into play right now as they rifle down into turn one, and it's the 55 of Cleaver out front with the 52 of Miller, second, 63 Pyle sits in third, 06 Seitz in fourth, and the number 1 of Sawinski, who dropped well back, Jim, has quietly worked his way back into the top 5.
Davin Seitz and the 1 of Kevin Sawinski both pitted, and they're going to try to make their way through now as Cleaver didn't pit, nor did Butch Miller or Robbie Pyle at that break.
So Miller playing some interesting strategy and just staying out. Cleaver right there. We'll see what's going to happen. Cleaver a little loose coming out of 3. And that's where you try and carry so much speed out of 3 into that front straight. Same story here out of 1. Because if you're good and your car's good, you're flat footing it right through 2 and pretty much all the way into 3.
What's paying off for Todd Cleaver now is the team came down as a unit and tested here at Concord Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago. And he said it really helped him get a baseline, and especially with the limited practice they had today, it really paid off for him. I talked to him during the long rain delay this afternoon. He said, man, I'm glad we got some laps in. We got the gearing where we wanted. I just want to get some laps in and get comfortable in this race car.
Well, anybody who tested here is going to be looking awfully good. Now you see that Robbie Pyle, Rob, sits in the 3rd spot, and he's watching these two guys duke it out up front.
Greg, I just talked to his crew chief, Bill McGowan. Bill indicated to me this last caution, it was fuel only. He said everything is going according to plan. They anticipate on the next caution coming in for tires, and that should do it for pit stops for Robbie Pyle tonight.
All right, and we are past the halfway mark. 128 of 250 laps complete. A great crowd on hand, as are some of the spotters for the race team. Here's your top 10 past the halfway point here at Concord. Joining Roush Racing in Mooresville, North Carolina is another of the major operators in NASCAR, Penske Racing South. Once again, just about 20-25 miles away from Concord, and some of the big names in motorsports based nearby. Now, speaking of big names, Butch Miller has once again gone to the front, and he did it as he worked around Todd Cleaver. Now watch what happened here as Miller was just on him, Jim.
Coming through that dog leg, Cleaver got a little wide. He saw Butch to the inside, gave him racing room. The youngster out of Wisconsin in his 2nd year allows the veteran Butch Miller to use the inside lane to make the pass. And Cleaver tried to get back on in time, and he did so to stay 2nd right now behind Butch.
There's Butch leading. We're going to show you who the biggest movers are so far in the race. And without any big surprise, Davin Seitz is the guy who has been absolutely stunning. Remember, he started 29th, so he's the #1 mover, making up 26 spots. Cleaver up 12. Bouguet up 12, and Smith up 10, and Stevens up 10 as well. So they've all had pretty good runs, but Davin Seitz is scything literally through this pack. Now, with Cleaver, you mentioned something during the break that may have been an interesting development about why he may have lost that spot and be going backwards a little bit if they only did fuel.
We had a little jumbled start to the race. If you just joined us, there was a couple of quick cautions in the first 50 laps. He was involved in one of those and spun on the front stretch, so his tires may be a little bit more worn than the rest of the field right now, because a lot of them have yet to change tires, but his have worse wear on them.
And we just saw a little bit of a nudge there as the 17 of Garvey and Hemphill came together. Garvey with that damaged front end, but it doesn't seem to be affecting his pace at all. He clearly looks to be a little bit quicker than Hemphill. He gets the back end out a little bit, but he's been doing that all race. And he just gently got into the back of Hemphill, more of a hey, I'm here kind of a thing, but he just got big loose once again. Tell you, I'm having fun watching Garvey drive this race car. Remember Houston, we talked about it. Right there, again, he just throws that car into the corner and waits for it to take a set. The thing is, I wonder if he's not now starting to run the tires off. And look at this move.
Again, on the outside.
Unbelievable. He did it the same spot going into 3. And Jim, he is carrying so much speed running that high line down into 3. It's just handcuffing everybody else.
And no one has run that high on the racetrack. No one's even thought about saying, I can make a pass on the outside in the corner. Come on. What a great run for this youngster.
Well, he's got so many laps on this track. Yes, maybe it's been in late models mostly, but he knows where the line is, and he's driving it to perfection. And obviously, they threw the setup on the car that was pure magic, and Davin knows exactly how to optimize it, and he's gone. I mean, he is absolutely flying, and that would essentially be now he's up 28 spots as a big mover into the lead once again. And the thing is, Jim, he seems to be able to do it almost at will.
Which is pretty crazy, because if you pass Butch Miller that fast, I'm sure Butch is saying, find out what those guys are doing, what they do to that race car to make it so good.
Well, we talked a little bit about softening it up, stiffening it up, and the like, and they've obviously got that car hooked up high. Now, right there's the #1, the Great Clips car of Sawinski, who, of course, started up front due to the owner's points determining the starting grid. He slipped back just a little bit, but he's continued to work his way up into the top 5. And right now, I think Cleaver is clearly holding up Pyle and probably Sawinski as those tires go off on him just a little bit. I think if these guys can get by, it'll be interesting to see what they have for Seitz and Miller.
Now, the first 2 races of the year, Kevin Sawinski drove a red car. Yeah. This team has a fleet of 4 different Chevrolets. They all happen to be freshly updated for this season. 2 are red, 2 are black. So they said, hey, we brought the black car here. There's no real reason or rhythm behind it. Great clips on the car here, but it's a black car. It's all good. It's just the different cars in the first 2 events.
Well, a little bit earlier, Rob Albright checked in with the crew. Let's go back down and get an update.
Mike Chaffee, you've stopped for fuel, you've changed right side tires, you've made your 2 mandatory stops. Will you need another stop?
Well, we're just going to kind of leave it up to Kevin to decide. We pitted pretty early for our tires. You know, if he thinks they're starting to slip, we're going to put on another set of tires.
Great communication between driver and troop chief. Mike Chaffee will lean on Kevin Sawinski for the next answer.
Well, Rob, that's a very good point in the sense that no matter what's going on, it's the driver who's butts in that seat and is telling them what that car is doing. And if he starts to lose some serious grip, he may not have an option. Right now, the bigger concern, Jim, I would think, is getting by Cleaver because Seitz and Miller are just disappearing up in front. Oh, there he goes. Trying, and Cleaver covered it. Well, Pyle's doing everything he possibly can to figure out a way by.
Pyle and Sawinski, the class of the field last weekend in Houston, and Pyle said, I did not want to bump my way to the win. He raced it clean with Sawinski, so Pyle, one of the cleanest drivers out here, trying to find a way cleanly past Cleaver, and Cleaver knows how to race the car and keep the car through the season. They raced with 1 car last year, did Cleaver's effort, so if it comes to push and shove, he may subside and let these guys pass. Almost looks to me like Pyle, if he back off just a little bit like he did here, because it looks like he has to check up coming through 2 every once in a while. Now, this time he didn't get a good enough run, but it looked like he could build a run up and just get down underneath going into 3. But I'll tell you, that time Cleaver covered it absolutely beautifully at this stage. Cleaver having himself a very, very strong run. He too was a driver that we talked to earlier about who's your favorite, and he picked one of today's hottest stars.
My favorite racer has to be Dale Earnhardt Jr. I just think he's got the right attitude. He's kind of in the position that everybody wants to be in, and I guess it's out of envy more than anything else.
A great crowd watching the action here at Concord, and Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you can watch Inside Winston Cup on Speed. All the inside information on the Cup Series right here on Speed, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have a new leader. Butch Miller must have heard me say Davin Seitz can go to the front at will, and he took umbrage with that statement. And Miller has knifed his way past, and not only that, he's put a lap car between he and Seitz, and there's a little protection. That was a veteran move by one of the greats.
Now, Butch Miller in traffic is one of the best. Davin Seitz has raced during a late model, but he has not had this kind of competition level, to my knowledge. And when it comes to 34 strong race cars to race against, they've run some great races here at Concord. But when it comes to the best short track races, including Butch Miller, he just schooled Davin Seitz on how to get through traffic.
Well, that was it. It all started with a little bit. He got caught in traffic. Seitz had to give up a little bit of the momentum, and Miller just started to hound him big time. And that's how it worked. Now we're going back 4th, 5th, and 6th. Number 1, Sawinski now is 4th. Then it's Glenn Allen Jr. and then 55 Cleaver, who is in fact now dropping back. And again, we would think his tires might be a bit suspect. But Sawinski got to the front, but he's bringing Glenn Allen with him right now.
Glenn Allen Jr. has led over 1,770 laps in ASA competition. He's finished as high as 2nd in the points. This is his return to the seat this year. He was a crew chief last year. Glenn Allen Jr. is putting on a show here. His Concord Motorsport Chevy, no sponsorship. They're hoping to continue on this season after the first couple of events. Glenn Allen Jr. has put this car in position to finish top 10 every race. And again, right here, following Sawinski, shows the mettle of a great race driver in the short track series here in ASA.
Well, he's certainly proven himself in the past. I mean, he's got 8 poles and 6 wins in his career, so he can get the job done. And as they get more and more familiar with the crew and the car and the like, every race he's been more and more impressive. You know, he's been caught out a couple of times, but he's had some great runs.
He's got some young guys with him from Cincinnati, Kevin Sharp and Jason, and they got John Boskin kind of out of retirement, and his father, Glenn Allen, is the spotter. The old Cincinnati gang is back together helping out Glenn's effort.
There's the number 30 of Travis Kittleson. And he's sort of been quiet here. He's 7th. We haven't seen or heard much from him, but he's still in the hunt right now. And Rob, he was looking a little bit flashier early on, but he's still there.
That's right, Craig. Gary, your driver was fastest in practice. He's picked up more spots since the last caution than any other driver. Are you good to go to the end?
Yeah, the Buckfield Chevrolet Easy Care Monte Carlo is, we've got both our stops done. We got our fuel, we got our tires. We got a nice little hole right now we're riding in. Car's a little bit tight, but there's only one guy in front of us, I think, that's got both their stops. The rest of them are going to have to pit. So we're just riding, waiting for that next yellow, not using up our equipment too much. Hopefully we got enough to race for the win at the end.
Looking at the number of laps left and the position that he's riding in, it may be a numbers game for Travis Kittleson, the leading rookie driver.
Well, he's been quietly effective, and strategy is something we're starting to see with that mandatory 2 pit stop rule and the fact that they can probably do it on tires. They've got their stops done, and they're just playing the game, and they're wondering about everybody else. And look at Miller, work traffic in the green 52 with the 06 of Seitz. And tell you what, there's a guy here who back in 01 showed everybody the way through traffic. He's with Bob Dillner.
Oh, yes, he did. We're talking about 2001 ASA champion Johnny Sauter. Johnny, you won this race. What does it take to win at Concord?
You got to have a whole lot of luck. This is one of those racetracks I don't mind coming and watching. It's pretty exciting, not only for us, but for these guys out there. And wish I was out there running with them.
Johnny Sauter, the 2001 champ, he won here, and he's also won in the Busch Series.
He's a great driver. Keep in mind, in 01 here, he went by Travis Kittleson, who led a lot of that race, opened it up, but Butch Miller darn near ran him down at the end. I think the margin of victory was 0.35 of a second, so Butch knows his way around this here racetrack.
And it's great to see Johnny Sauter here, because if he took after his dad, Jim Sauter, they've all raced in ASA, but he doesn't like coming to racetracks he can't compete at. He's like, I don't want to show up if I can't race, so it's good to see Johnny made the trip.
Yeah, it is great. Lots of success in the Sauter clan. 17 Garvey is being, well, he got by, is what I meant to say, around Hemphill. He'd been hounding him for so long, and he finally was able to go by. Refner queued up behind him, 25 Cope behind him. And I think the 44 of Cozzolino, with all the incidents that Cozzolino's been involved in, some of his own doing, a number of them not by any stretch, the fact he's still in the top 15 is pretty amazing.
He's had a pretty fast race car, has Cozzolino. Yeah. In this cluster right here with Garvey in there and Hemphill, they've been racing the back half of the top 10 all race long, trying to get their rhythm now. And as they say, if they have anything left, we're going to start to see it in the final 70 laps here.
Garvey, the black 17, Hemphill, the white 11. Then it's the 80 Refner, the Menards car. Oh, and Hemphill taking a run again now, trying to get back by Garvey. Couldn't quite do it. Now they're coming up on some lap traffic. That's John Silverthorne, who does the right thing and moves down low, lets him get by as much as possible. And look at 25 Cope trying to get underneath Refner, and he's got the lap traffic of Silverthorne. And, well, nice job by Refner, who just stayed calm. Used Silverthorne as a pick, and Cope had to tuck back in. Cope was lucky not to have Cozzolino move out and go around the outside of him.
Absolutely right. That might have been a let me back in, please, kind of move as he went to the bottom and almost got stuck there.
Meanwhile, up front, Miller continues to lead, but Seitz is all over him. And Ken Stout at certain times, Seitz doesn't seem to have it. Other times, he is so fast.
Jim Atkins, crew chief for the 06 car. Where'd you guys get this baseline setup?
Hal just gave us a good baseline, and we tweaked on it a little bit, so we're good to go.
These guys tweaked that baseline setup. Now keep in mind, Robbie Pyle is the house car for Hal Chassis. They only had a limited amount of practice time, so Chaz Hal went around to his customers and gave them a baseline setup to get around this track. It's working great for Davin Seitz, guys.
Well, there's a classic case of some expanded teamwork. You know, you may have Pyle as the pseudo factory effort, but you do sell chassis, and you've got a job to do in terms of helping your customers out. I bet Chaz Howe does it incredibly well.
And that's really what networks here in ASA is the chassis builders. And I saw Harley Bovey from Port City here. I've seen Wen Lensing from Left-Hander Chassis at the racetrack. Jim Randerson from Randercar. All those guys are here helping their teams. There's not 4 or 5 cars owned by the same guy like Hendrick or Roush, but we find a lot of networking with the chassis setups like we find with Chaz Howe.
But right now, they are chasing Butch Miller, and he has been at the front in one way, shape, or another all race long. Right now, fending off Davin Seitz as we are working lap 189 of 250, coming up on the 4/5 complete mark here in this track. And this oval is so quick. These guys lapping at an average speed of 105 miles an hour as they put, oh, we got some damage there. Somebody ducked into the pits. No big deal. And Miller continues to hold off Seitz. And as I said, no matter who else has been in the battle, tonight Butch Miller has been a constant up in the front of this pack. Earlier, he was going up against Sawinski. Then it was Garvey. He was able to get by there. Kittleson in the mix. Then Cleaver he had to race by. And then, of course, most recently, a great battle with Davin Seitz. It's still Miller who's leading, but Seitz is there.
Welcome back, everybody. Tomorrow morning, make sure you're up nice and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for Speed Channel's live coverage of the Formula One World Championship, the San Marino Grand Prix from the unbelievably exciting Imola circuit in Italy. Once again, that's tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, live on Speed. We are under yellow, a full course caution, and here's what happened, and it basically was number 11 Hemphill just caught out.
Now he's trying to stay in his own racing line. Here comes, Brian Ruffner gets in the backside, and he gets a long slide down the front stretch. Ruffner gets away clean, but Hemphill on that last impact may have knocked the rear end out of alignment in that Meyer Chevy.
Right there, you can see it. He already got the nudge.
He just got it locked down. It seemed like he came off the corner, thought he was clear. And on the outside, Davin Seitz has done it. The spotters that see this, they say, hey, Brian, move up the racetrack. Try that outside. And Hemphill didn't know he was there.
Well, it looked to me like Hemphill had just a little wiggle before that happened. And again, I may be playing devil's advocate, but I thought that Ruffner thought he's going to save it, and he did. Let's go down to Ken as Miller is in.
Butch Miller coming in here, the Timberwolf team, of course, just getting some fuel. Now that'll help them out. It'll be a quicker pit stop than the competitor Davin Seitz is just in front of them, as Davin Seitz is taking on right side tires, and that's obviously going to suck up some time. Let's go back to Robert, up to the guys.
All right, thanks, Ken, and also number 1 Sawinski and getting right side tires as well. And Robbie Pyle had a great pit stop. Of course, he has to wait now until the fuel goes by. Miller queues up behind him, then Cleaver, then Sawinski, and then Garvey is actually, he's going to benefit just from where his pit position is, and he's going to come out. They've now released him onto the track. There's the 25 Mannheim Auto Auctions of Orlando, car of Cope, Beebe, I mean, everybody, it seems, making the move here. Glenn Allen, he's been in the hunt all race long, currently sits in the 5th spot. By the way, Pyle is the guy who came out best in that exchange, but Glenn Allen, he's been around a long, long time, and recently he got another look at this sport.
When you start a new race team, it's always nice when you can hire a veteran. And that's exactly what Ed Hawks of Hawks Motorsports did when he hired that man, Glenn Allen Jr., who wheeled the 53 car here in 2003. Now, Glenn has been behind the wheel for a lot of years, since the age of 14, and in fact has been racing with the ASA for the better part of 10 years. But 1 year ago, he added something special to his resume, as you, my friend, became a crew chief. How did that change your perspective as a driver?
Well, you just learn so much other aspects of the race program, and it's a whole lot different being on the box and being on the racetrack. But these guys have busted their butt. It's gave me an opportunity to build a great race shop in Cincinnati from where I'm from, and we feel like now we're ready to race and win, so we're excited about our opportunities.
He's enjoyed a lot of success behind the wheel as he finished second in the points in 1995 with the ASA, and also earned Rookie of the Year with the Busch Grand National Series in '96.
So there's the number 53 of Glenn Allen Jr., and guess what? With the way the pit stops all shook out, the veteran finds himself up front. We're just about 50 laps from the end. This, folks, is in Concord, North Carolina, the home of Hendrick Motorsports, a team that has done so much. And, of course, for ASA graduate Jimmy Johnson, he's taken his Rookie of the Year in ASA in '98, and Hendrick has helped him to, well, really being one of the true stars in the world of Winston Cup racing. So, truly, this is the home of stock car racing. Here's our pit summary. And you notice Butch was leading when he went in, came out in 5th. Seitz drops to 9th. That could be very costly. But it's Glenn Allen Jr. who brings him up as we are green with less than 50 laps to go, folks. Let's listen in to the sounds of speed. Sorensen going after Glenn Allen. He, though, stayed tough around the outside for 2 laps. His experience paying off when he got a little loose. And that let Kittleson sneak by, and Rob Albright, whatever changes they need to get him off the corner, he's launching.
He's obviously very fast. I talked to his dad, Bob, earlier this afternoon. He told me that Travis never sat behind the wheel of a stock car until 1999. He said, we'll get you a super late model. We'll give you 1 year to prove yourself. I'd say, guys, he's acquitting himself quite well.
Glenn Allen Jr.'s crew chief keeping an eye on lap times here as he relays them to Glenn Allen. He says they're finished with pit stops here tonight. All they got to do is try to hang on.
Well, Ken, the problem for him is right behind him. You got the 52 of Miller. Underneath Miller, or at least attempting it, goes Robbie Pyle in the Sitco Chevy. Well, he didn't get it done there. He's still looking, though. He's working the low line. Miller up high. Oh, they almost touched. Maybe they even nudged. But they stay with it. Behind him is the 63 of Pyle is Cleaver. Then 1 Sawinski 7th. Garvey in the 17 is 8th. Seitz back to 9th. Refner is 10th.
Mike Garvey now trying to make the outside work. That's where Davin Seitz passed him earlier for the race lead. Seitz staying with him on the outside. They will advance quickly, it seems like. If they can keep the cars pinned to the bottom, they can't come up the racetrack and use all of it. And if they're better on the outside, watch out.
They're hooked up, and Miller gets around now. He sneaks by. That leaves now Glenn Allen Jr. in the 4 spot. Robbie Pyle right behind him. Then Cleaver. Then the 17 and Garvey. And look at the move now. Around the outside again goes Seitz. And Bob Dillner, we are watching one of the reasons why ASA lost so many careers.
That's right. Butch Miller is working his way back up. He restarted 5th. David Stremme, you know Butch Miller well. Can he work his way back into the lead?
Oh, I think you'll find out Butch is going to have some left there with 10 to go. But, you know, you got 2 rookies up there, and I know how hungry I was when I wanted to win. So Travis Kittleson, Reed Sorensen got a really bright future. They show a lot of maturity, but Butch has got some old tricks, so we'll see what happens.
47 wins for Butch Miller in the ASA Series, but Travis Kittleson, he's got none.
But he's got the lead, and he's got the front, and he's got speed right now as well. But now Seitz is setting his sights on not only the 63 of Garvey, but now Pyle there. He's going after Garvey right now. They're working through some lap traffic, and once again, I think Davin Seitz, that car in the early stages of a long run is golden. It is magic. If it gets a little bit too long, he may be overheating his tires. He's generating such great grip, but this is when he is super fast.
He and Mike Garvey both put on right side tires on the most recent caution, so as they cycle through here, Garvey knows that Seitz likes the outside. Garvey tried the outside, and it worked to pass some cars. As they get by Glenn Allen, watch what Garvey does. The veteran is going to see how wide his Chevy can get because he knows Seitz likes it up top.
Now here we go. Garvey ducks underneath Glenn Allen, and for a minute it looked like Seitz was going to go with him. Now Seitz tries to get a little toe off of Glenn Allen, then cuts down underneath, goes with Garvey. Now they go around Williams. Boy, this is fun to watch these guys play the strategy out on the track at this stage. Where do you go? How do you set the car up? But once again, there he is. Garvey, all race long, is throwing that car into the turns, letting the back end come around, getting it rotated, and then just dropping the hammer. And now a slew of traffic up front. Boy, are they running down that lead group in a hurry.
And there's really no straightaway here on this racetrack, so they're sawing at the wheel, getting through that traffic. 2 and 3 wide racing around this racetrack.
Well, Travis Kittleson, we mentioned in 01, he was very quick here, led a lot of laps. Miller goes to the outside, trying to do something with Sorensen. Can't get it done. Here comes Seitz, though. Seitz coming around the outside, trying to get by and pick up 4th. Does he do it? He is. He is by Garvey, and he may get a run at Miller. He's got Miller around the outside. Side by side, Seitz. He did it to Miller there before. He's done it again. Seitz, 5th to 3rd, and here comes Garvey. Let's check in with Rob Albright.
Jody Wilkerson, crew chief for Reed Sorensen. What concerns you more, the guy in front of you or the other rookie right behind?
I don't know. Kittleson's going to be pretty tough. He's been pretty tough all race long, but Butch Miller's been there and done that, so he's going to be even tougher. So
Butch Miller's been there and done that. Jody Wilkerson might want to look in his rearview mirror, however, for that other rookie, Davin Seitz.
I love it. Butch Miller's been there, done that. The guy does have experience to draw on, but that's absolutely right. Here comes Seitz, just as you talked about, Rob, in that outside line. Whoa! He turns down a little bit. Sorensen and he get together. They go around. Both of them save it. Sorensen, did he stall it? I don't know, but Seitz, he did a quick 360 and continued on. Even when it goes wrong for Seitz, it goes right.
He had such a momentum run going into turn number 1. Sorensen was unable to keep it on the bottom. I think it was just one of those racing contact deals. Luckily, both those cars escaped injury, but I can't say the same for Brian Refner here, who found contact with the wall as the cars tried to scatter around.
That was it. Everything broke loose in front of, and Refner taking avoidance goes around, but Seitz now knows what it's like. You got to trust him when you're running around the outside, and this time, well, he got away with it. We'll be right back.
It's not only
yet, but we've seen a great race tonight, and if you're enjoying it, make sure you tune in next Saturday, live, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for the ASA's 4th round in Lanier. Lanier Speedway, just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, up in Brazelton. It is going to be a great race. We, of course, are under a caution. We want to go back and, Jim, see if we can find out just exactly what happened there.
Well, going in the corner, Seitz, we mentioned, was on the move on the outside. It looked like he may have already tried to clear the 29 of Sorensen. As he went through the corner, Sorensen drifted up, because that's how this track does it. You just rode up into the groove of what would be the inside line. They made contact here. Here we go on board with Travis Kittleson now as he looks behind him to see how close they are together. Sorensen on the left side, maybe Sorensen touching that left side paint, the yellow paint on the inside line might have drifted him up the racetrack just slightly.
Unfortunately for Sorensen, Garvey also just tapped the back end of him too.
This will not be a good result. Rowley
Well,
Mile got thrust into it by getting hit in the back end by the 80 car. Ryan Reffner, what a rough break for those two guys.
Well, that's the concern, isn't it? Sometimes it's not the incident that starts it. It's the aftermath when everybody's checking up and you're running blind tucked in behind somebody and boom. But it looked to me like as soon as Seitz turned in or whatever and Sorensen tapped him and they both slowed, Garvey just tapped the back of Sorensen and that's what sent him around.
Now, Garvey, recall, last race he was leading, got dinged up and had a fender fly off the left front and still finished 4th. So Garvey has caught some breaks tonight. He also caught the rear end of J.C. Beatty's car under caution and knocked the front end loose. So that has not been an issue. But can you imagine what happens if Mike Garvey ever gets a race car that's from start to finish unharmed in a race?
I was just thinking that. If this guy gets through a race clean, the way he's been running is absolutely phenomenal. Now, Jim alluded to this just a little while ago. You see the signature on the back of Davin Seitz' car? This is an interesting program, and take a look at that hood.
West Virginia Davin Seitz sports unusual sponsorship, that coming in the person of Warner Brothers recording artist John Michael Montgomery. Well, Davin also considers Concord Motorsport Park his home racetrack. He ran regularly here in 1998 and 1999. Davin, tell us how this sponsorship came to be.
Well, basically it was, he lives in Kentucky, and that's up in the neighborhood of where I'm at. I'm in West Virginia. And John Michael Montgomery, he likes racing, and he wanted to start out with an up-and-coming driver, and we all got together.
Davin's dad, Jack, raced back in the 60s and 70s against NASCAR legends Tommy Ellis and Jack Ingram. Davin says he pushed him into go-karts at age 15. Now Davin hopes that this new sponsorship will push him to the front of ASA's elite.
Well, and Davin's ability as well as the setup the crew threw in the car is pushing him right to the lead of this one and a potential win. I mean, he started 29th, fought his way up to the lead a couple of times. He now sits with that spin, sort of the Danny Sullivan Indy thing, in the 3rd spot right now. But let's check in again with Bob Dillner. Bob, it's been an exciting one.
Yes, it has been. Scott Wimmer standing by with me right now. Scott, you remember when you won that Lanier race, what was going through your mind? What's going through Travis Kittleson's mind at the end of this race?
I guarantee right now there's a lot of things going through his mind. He's got a great race car driver with Mike Garvey behind him. I remember my first win, I had Mike Miller and Butch Miller behind me. So Travis is a great race car driver. He keep it straight. I think he can hang on to this one.
Guys, you got a couple. They're all around you. They're all around you.
Less than 25 to go. We're racing once again. Kittleson in front of Garvey, then Seitz, then 52 Miller, then 53 Glenn Allen Jr. That's your top 5. And I'll tell you, this may be just an absolutely perfect setup for Seitz in the sense, as we talked about, that car in the early part of a long run is when it really comes to life. Garvey is going to be awfully tough to get by. Travis Kittleson, well, he knows this track. He's had success here, but he has got a veteran on his tail right now.
Now, the ASA Series has very specific rules. We noticed Davin Seitz spun, caused the caution. In the rule book, it says you blend back in where you get the car refired. He was able to keep the car going. He did not lose any positions on the racetrack. That's why he's starting 3rd. He was not sent to the back. ASA rules state you spin, get back going. Wherever you blend in is where you line up.
And here he goes again. Look at that move, Jim. I mean, he came out of there so fast, he had to check up or he would have hit Kittleson. And Garvey takes advantage. Kittleson worrying about Seitz. Moved over. Garvey said thank you and shot down underneath. So Seitz looking like maybe the lead. He's still 3rd, but now Garvey's out front. What an eventful race for him. And look at the margin. He's already opened up over Kittleson. Right now, Davin Seitz has got to get on it. And for him, in his mirrors, if they had him, is where he's going to be worried, because that green at number 52 growing ever larger.
Butch Miller went from 7th to the lead at Lakeland, Florida in the late stages. He used an outside pass, and Davin Seitz has made this his patented move here at Concord Motorsports Park, a track he's got many laps on. But look at Kittleson fighting him off now.
Kittleson's down low, but this is where Seitz loves it. This car sticks like it's on rails. Outside of 3, he's by. He's 2nd. Kittleson's 3rd. Miller is 4th. And Sawinski has moved up. Got around Glenn Allen Jr. So Sawinski now up in the top 5, your points leader in that #1 Great Clips SK Tools Chevrolet. But right now, here's the question. What does... Oh, there's your answer. These guys going at it hammer and tong.
That time, Davin Seitz made sure he had a lot of room to get by Kittleson, unlike Reed Sorensen's run and the spin.
But the thing is Garvey's not even in the picture. He is absolutely hooked up and gone.
Over a 2nd lead now on this 16 lap racetrack. It's huge for Mike Garvey.
Now you see Garvey right there going out of screen, and then there comes the rest of them. And right now, Garvey has opened up Rob Albright an amazing lead in just a couple laps. What's up?
Shane Test's crew chief, I'll tell you, he watched those 2 youngsters battle with each other and slip in there. You got a smirk on your face. Tell me about it.
Well, they just made a little rookie mistake. It happens. We capitalized on it. Hopefully we can hold on to the lead here. The 06 got a pretty quick car. We got 20 to go. We'll see what we can do.
Looks like 12 laps to go. Shane Test pretty excited about it, or is he?
Shane Tash is really making his debut as a crew chief for Mike Garvey this season. He moved down in February to Georgia. They worked together in 1999 and scored many wins as Shane was a car chief. So I mentioned the young crew, Mike Garvey. This will be huge for their confidence this season.
I'll tell you what, at the end of this race, I'd love to get a good look at Garvey's right rear tire because he's still throwing that car sideways. I mean, it's Mike Kinzer Garvey right now, the ways he's flat-footing it, and it's working. The car, he's throwing it in, taking a set, that thing is just launching off the corners. It's fun to watch, and it is absolutely crazy. Now, behind him, a great battle for 4th, and Ken Stout, you've got a rookie, and he is being chased by 2 vets.
Yeah, no question about it. Butch Miller's strategy was to lay back and try to save the tires and then make a run at it with about 10 laps to go. We'll see if he can make up all that ground. But I got to tell you, Davin Seitz' crew is just elated with its progress.
Well, Ken, as you mentioned, Miller may, I don't know what his plan was, but he just lost the spot to Sawinski. And Miller may not have the tires on the car that he wanted. And we've got an incident. And Cozzolino involved, that poor guy, Beebe, who'd had a decent run going for much of the race. He was running 8th at the time. Cozzolino was 9th.
Mike Cope was also involved. He was in the 10th position. So that was a battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th that bottlenecked up over turn #1.
Now almost a full 2nd lead by Garvey's gone. And we got to finish 5 laps of green if this runs past that. So Garvey's margin is gone, and Seitz is going to be right behind him. And Seitz' car coming off of yellow seems to be awfully tough. So we're going to be seeing, there's a look at Beebe, who was having a very solid run, but an incident late in the going here. We checked in with Rick Beebe about who his favorite driver is, and it's somebody who recently showed his stuff in ASA.
Oh, that's easy for me. It's Jimmy Johnson. He's one of my heroes. He's one of my students in my rookie class in ASA. He's a great guy, and he's a heck of a driver. I root for him every weekend.
Welcome back, everybody. We're under our 7th caution now compared to 01 where we had 15. This has been a cakewalk.
And lead changes. I lost track, man.
Yeah.
I got a whole notepad full of lead changes here.
In 01, it was only 2. Right. So it's been a great race. Let's go back and show you what happened to bring us under this caution.
Again, they were battling for 8th, 9th, and 10th. Cozzolino already spun at the bottom. Rick Beebe there in the car. Ping-pong in between him was Mike Cope. On board now with Rick Beebe.
Listen to this.
That's the sound of speed that Rick Beebe did not want to hear this late in the race.
No, when he got gathered up, I mean, that hit was hard enough that it absolutely knocked the onboard camera right out of whack as well. So here's Seitz, and this is going to be fascinating. We're probably going to have a 5-lap shootout to the end of this one. And that car off of these cautions seems to just hook up on the outside. So Garvey, who looked awfully quick, I mean, once he got by, I mean, it's not like he got that gap and then lost it all. He was hanging right there. It's going to be unbelievable. Let's check in with Ken Stout.
Oh, you guys talk about how quick he was. Davin Seitz, we're talking about out of turn 4 here. He absolutely loves his car at that end of the racetrack. And of course, his crew chief, Kim Atkins, has already told him, put it on the outside and drive around him. Let's go to Rob.
Ken, this is the trophy that the winner will get here during the BF Goodrich 250. And Mike Garvey has not won one of these in over 2 years. He is one of ASA's most winning drivers, but he is very, very hungry right now. Rob?
Scuba Shane Tesh, your driver's fast. What's the restart strategy?
Try to get a good restart. Hopefully the 06 spins his tires, gives us a little bit of room, and ride it out, do the best we can, run a little bit of a wide lap. See, he's a good racer. He's got a fast car. Do what we can.
There we go, guys. Good to the finish.
We're green, and he wants him to run a wide lap. I like that. Garvey, Seitz, then Kittleson right there. Then the number 1 is Sawinski in the 52 of Miller. Boy, what a group up front. Talk about talent and talk about speed. And here comes Seitz. Right up behind Garvey. Both of them now are drawing away from Kittleson. Garvey again throws the car in, lets the back end rotate. Take a set and goes. Seitz in 3, staying down low. I think he's maybe trying to psych Garvey a little bit, trying to get him to pull down a little bit so he could put the move on him. Garvey having none of it. They continue to ease away just a bit from this group. Sawinski looking for a way around Kittleson. Seitz puts the nose down low. Garvey lets it flow out. Still Garvey.
Where Davin Seitz is gaining on Mike Garvey is off the dogleg in turn 2. He stays lower than Garvey, gets a great run into 3. Right here, he stays lower with the sparks blue. Last lap, he was able to nose underneath Garvey momentarily.
Does it again, tries to get down and underneath. Oh, he's there. He's there. He's alongside. They touch. Garvey goes around. Garvey finds the wall.
The white flag's been displayed, and now racing back to the checker. The caution will not come out.
This is it, and it looks like Seitz may get the win. Onto the front straight. Davin Seitz takes the win. Kittleson will be second. Sawinski third. Miller fourth. And Garvey drops off the map a little bit here as number 53, Glenn Allen, brings it home in the 5th spot. But once again, I mean, Seitz was down and alongside. We're going to have to look at some replays. It may have simply been incidental. It looked like he was there. They both went into the corner and they just touched. But Garvey did get into the wall, and he definitely dinged up the left side of that race car just a bit.
There's 2 sides to every story. Seitz definitely had the car to beat running the outside line. The only chance he would have would to be past Mike Garvey on the inside. He got beneath him. Garvey tried to protect the line, and then they got together.
You know, Seitz a registered rookie, but when Garvey started to run that wider line, Seitz adjusted beautifully and said, fine, we'll try and do it down to the inside and see what happens. So it was an interesting development. Let's watch it.
Down the front stretch, Mike Garvey again off the wall, so he's trying to protect his racing line, trying to keep that lead, and they get together here. The end of the pit wall also cost him.
Yeah, I'll tell you right there, I think they were both just going for the same piece of real estate. We'll watch it from this angle as we're going to break away. Yeah, there was definitely a little grind going on here. When we come back, we'll sort it all out. Speed Channel's live coverage of the ASA Racing Series BF Goodrich Tires 250 is brought to you by BF Goodrich Tires, the official tire of the ASA. And by Action Collectibles, the choice of champions. Well, it was an exciting one. Let's check in with our winner. Ken?
I'll tell you what, an elated Davin Seitz inside of the car climbing out now. She's an 8, she's a 9, she's a 10. I know one of John Michael Montgomery's top hits, and there's no question about it. These guys are excited. His first full year inside of the ASA, and this is his first win ever. Congratulations.
Man. First off, John Michael Montgomery, we teamed up with him. I want to thank him, his new album Pictures, his label Warner Brothers. Thank you guys. We got Hal Chassis, we got Tiger Rear Ends, we've got Coin Textile Service. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Tell me about the pass whenever you got around Mike Garvey. It looked like you stuck the nose down there on him twice. You went around everybody else on the outside.
I did, and I think he knew that, and he was trying to, he was protecting out outside on me, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't. I'd have settled for second, but when you got that much in, you can't back off, and we don't have a full-time sponsor. I mean, that's what we're working on, so we had to go for it.
It was a heck of a battle all night long, even between you and Butch Miller as well a little bit earlier on.
Yes, and them guys, they raced great. Some of the best short track drivers there is.
Congratulations. Let's go to Rob.
Well, Mike Garvey, I thought the dry spell was going to end. Can you possibly describe the disappointment?
No, I can't. One lap to go. It's hard to take like that. It's a lot easier to go through somebody than go around them. I choose to pass people to win races. I won't run over somebody to win a race. If he's proud of that, more power to him. We won't race that way. W.J. Plemons, Monte Carlo, we ran hard all night long. We passed everybody clean, and if he's proud of himself, I hope he can look himself in the mirror.
Well, it's been a long dry spell for Mike Garvey. It looks like it'll continue. He sure shows a lot of class. Bob Dillner.
Travis Kittleson finished second, but Travis, you had a catbird seat for what happened there between the leaders. What happened?
It just looked like they were going for the same piece of real estate. Mike Garvey's a real hard racer, and it seems that Devin Sight's going to be a real hard racer this year, and they're just going for the same piece of real estate, and that's what happens.
3 top 10 finishes to start the season. Kind of a dream come true, isn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you what, this Bob Steele Chevrolet team is coming together like you wouldn't believe. Everybody think if that last caution didn't come out, we'd have took this one home, but unfortunately that last caution hurt. But yeah, these last 3 races finishing like this is really going to help us out.
Travis Kittleson second here, his best career ASA finish.
Well, I'll tell you what, we saw some phenomenal racing and some great races from a number of the rookies and, of course, some of the veterans in there as well. Let's take a look at our unofficial final results from Concord Motorsports Park in the BF Goodrich Tires 250. Seitz gets the win in an incredibly exciting fashion. Look at that, top 2 rookies, then Sawinski, then Miller, then Glenn Allen Jr. All vets, Cleaver a rookie, Boris Yurkovic, Casey Smith. We take a look at the rest of the pack, and there was some great racing throughout. I mean, Robbie Pyle was in the midst of everything, Mike Cope, and there you see Garvey finishing outside of the top 10. That's got to be a very tough one for him to take. And he obviously was pretty upset when we talked about what happened in that pass, but we're going to take one more look at it, and I just want to get your opinion on something, Jim, as we replay it, because it looked to me, now as they come out here, Garvey starts to move to the left much earlier. The groove is still way out here, and he turns in. I mean, look how close Seitz was to that concrete barrier on the inside. Incredibly close. Garvey was protecting, but I don't think he's totally blameless here.
This
the
will show
groove,
Seitz
watch
got
where,
it from here.
There's your groove. I mean, it's way out there. So I think, as it was said by Kittleson, they're going for the same piece of real estate. Garvey's going to do anything he can to protect, and obviously Seitz wants to win. Let's check in with Ken, who's with Kevin Sawinski.
Our points leader finished second at Lakeland, first in Houston. That was with the red cars, but you still come in third with a black car. Looks like black or red's your color.
Yeah, this SK's tool car was awesome all night. Not quite good enough to get up there and compete against the 06, but hopefully next week at Lanier we'll get them.
And of course, all that really matters is he hung on to the points lead, guys.
Well, he's bat for the cycle. I mean, he's got seconds, thirds, and a win, so he's there. And there's the celebrations. Davin Seitz down in Victory Circle. And those are the 2 young ladies who, by the way, sang the national anthem here and did an incredible a cappella duet. So celebrating big time. Boom! That was some of the action that unfolded. Next race coming up next weekend, Lanier Speedway, just outside of Atlanta. It is going to be fascinating. We remind you, please tune in to speedtv.com for all things racing online. For Jim Trado, for Rob Albright, for Ken Stout, and in a special guest appearance for Bob Dillner, I'm Greg Kramer. Thanks so much for joining us here at Concord Motorsports Park. We'll see you in a week from Lanier.